Hello, good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to this webinar from USOMI. As you probably know, I am the past president of the USOMI, and we have an excellent speaker today from Switzerland, which Pinar will introduce to you in a few seconds. We also have a panel, and we will guide you, or we will ask the questions at the end of the presentation. Of course, the attendees, they can also send us their questions, so please do not hesitate to send us your questions in the Q&A box. And then Gennaro Dana will certainly help you with asking these questions, and there will be a discussion at the end, as I told you. So yes, for this presentation, for this webinar, we would like to thank INCEPTO, the company sponsoring this event. And probably one of the INCEPTO people, I think the CEO, Antoine Jaumier, will also join us, will join the panel, but we are still waiting for him. But in any way, I would like to give now the opportunity to Pinar to introduce the speaker of tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Tonight we have the pleasure that we have Dr. Hugues Brat with us. He is the CEO of Group 3R. This stands for Réseau Radiologique Roman, a Swiss private radiology group with 13 imaging centers. He's also a member of the EuroSafe Imaging Clinical Diagnostic Reference Levels Working Group of the European Society of Radiology. His expertise in education and scientific activities are mainly focused on CT-guided pain treatment and radiation dose optimization. His current R&D focuses on personalizing contrast agent injection in CT, co-creation and monitoring of AI applications, and improving patient workflow and quality of work of radiologists. His talk tonight will be, or today will be on the pathway of the introduction of this, the usage and the quality assurance of AI applications in a multi-center network. As Eric said, we also have another panelist who will join us, Antoine Jaumier. He has more than 20 years of experience in the medical imaging industry and has held a senior executive position at the GE Healthcare in the past. And he's now the CEO and co-founder of the company INCEPTO Medical, which is a platform of AI solutions applied to medical imaging. So as Eric said, please write your questions down in the Q&A box. We will discuss them at the end during the panel discussion. And for now, Dr. Brat, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind introduction. Dear onliners, today I'm going to present you Group 3R experience regarding the introduction, usage, and quality assurance of AI applications in a multi-center radiology network. As stated, this presentation is done in collaboration with INCEPTO, for which I would like to disclose that we have an institutional partnership with. So let's start with an overview of today's topics. After a short presentation of 3R, we shall rewind to the beginning of our AI adventure in 2018 up to our vision of AI for the future. Group 3R is one of the leading private radiology networks in Switzerland with 13 centers equipped with state-of-the-art modalities, and we are very busy in teleradiology as we offer specialized interpretation, which makes it mandatory to standardize good practice protocols and structured reporting among our centers and our community of radiologists. So let's move to the very beginning of our human adventure. This starts in 2018 at the ECR meeting, where I had the pleasure to meet Antoine Jaumier, who was in the process of founding INCEPTO, a startup in AI. He shared his vision of AI in radiology with me, and this fully matched my understanding of the pivot point we were at in medical imaging. indeed, the workload of radiologists was increasing so much these last years that I was hoping for a technological solution to lighten this burden on a daily basis. This gave us the opportunity of being first movers and fully understand the potential of AI in radiology. That was the start of the dream, and there it was. On one hand, AI could take over repetitive work with low added value in radiologist workday. On the other hand, AI applications could improve the radiologist diagnostic capabilities with a systematic second reading and working as a safety net for diagnostic errors. And finally, AI applications could become extremely reliable doing the radiologist interpretation, and the radiologist could finally validate the AI results. So that was the result of the initial brainstorming, and this brought us to set up an AI team within 3R with Benoit Riske and Federica Zanca for 3R, and moving on to co-creating a product aiming at knee MRI interpretation in a context of added clinical value of such application. So INCEPTO created an annotation platform, which we started using in November of the same year. And our first results were presented already in October 2019 at the French Radiology Congress and first USOMI Congress, followed by a first publication and today a product on the market. This product is named Keros, and we used our internal database of standardized MRI examinations linked to standardized structured reports. A lot of manual annotations were necessary, increased with NLP for the reports and double reading for the images. Our results were then validated on external databases as well, and the entire work is translated into this beautiful, easy to understand traffic light reporting on a knee illustration with green findings being normal, orange being doubtful, and red findings being abnormal findings. What is important to understand is the importance of radiologist input in the co-creation of an AI product. And I urge younger generation of radiologists to take the necessary steps to be certified in AI, and you're in the right place because this can be done with USOMI. As you can see here, the purple boxes show you where the radiologist is needed in the entire journey of creating these algorithms, starting with the clinical issue, the construction of clean, current, and representative databases, data annotation, product specifications and clinical value, up to clinical validation, product testing, and peer-reviewed publications. So you see that almost in every step, the radiologist is important. So AI algorithms in clinical practice are not only created by data scientists. Your input is really mandatory and so important. From there, we decided to introduce AI in our clinical routine, and that was in 2021. But during this production process from 2018 to 2021, more than 100 commercially available products were brought to the market, and only a few demonstrated a potential impact, which was confusing and raised important questions. For example, how to choose the right application for the right diagnosis, or do we have to test every application and find out by ourselves which one answers our needs? And do we have to interface every single application we wish to test with our PACS system and our risk PACS system? The IT department wouldn't be very happy with that, I guess. So the answers on these questions were partly delivered by INCEPTO, who drew our attention to the distribution concept based on a real due diligence process of the existing apps on the market and the producers of it in order to deliver a portfolio of impactful applications according to your needs, such as triage, prioritization, time saving, reassuring, standardization, or productivity, or savings, money savings, savings on expensive traces, or even frontline service proposals with very innovative algorithms. And this is the option we chose to introduce curated apps as well as our app in our network with a single gateway, the INCEPTO gateway, as a single access point. So we didn't have to get in touch with every company and connect every application that we had to choose to our network, but we only had a single access point, and behind we could choose the applications that were most suitable for our daily practice. So we started with 4 apps, which with obvious clinical impact in order to increase the diagnostic excellence, the quality of our service, and benefit from technological innovations, which are 3 company values of 3R. So we decided to implement BoneView for fracture detection, VI Chest for lung cancer detection and follow-up, Transpara for breast cancer detection, and Pixie Neuro for white matter lesions detection and follow-up. While INCEPTO was installing the gateway, we started on the onboarding process with preliminary explanatory emails of the project, and for each application, a one-pager on how to use and what to expect from this application that will be installed next month. So in order to give a regular pace to the process, for each application, we decided to set up a reproducible onboarding process every month, and one application was installed and distributed throughout the network every month. And this onboarding process consisted of a workshop in selected centers with other centers connected by Zoom to share the vision of this product, brainstorm the success factor, how would this application improve my daily life as a radiologist? That was the main question, and prepare the next steps as well. Then it was followed by a training period with on-site staff presentations, individual coaching and follow-up, as well as video tutorials as support. And a regular communication was introduced in 3R for the radiologist, prescribing physicians, and mainly using social media, sharing cases, workflow impact, some testimonials with the collaborators from 3R as actors, and sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience, their first experience with these new applications. After 1 year, more than 70,000 examinations were processed with BoneView. So this is an example of a classical hand X-ray that you can find in a pile of many other examinations, and of course, for which you don't have any clinical indication on the form. You are very happy indeed to see this small square telling you what to look at, where to look at, and then zoom on this small fracture you might have missed with all the harassment and noise around you at the workplace. So obviously this application helps us to gain a massive amount of time, and in the near future, we will use it to prioritize the results for triage purposes. It helps us to reduce false positive and negative results with the consequence we are all aware of, because behind this picture, you always have a patient, and the patient is not just an image. And as we just saw, it enables early detection of subtle fractures, offers you a universal double reading, and can be integrated in routine with impact on your reporting turnaround time. 5,600 Chest CTs were also analyzed with VI chest for lung cancer detection and follow-up, helping us to focus on real lesions, enabling a systematic double reading with a massive time saving again, and a 3D doubling time results is included in this analysis. You can even go beyond the intended use of this algorithm and combine it with the diagnosis of comorbidities of heavy smokers, such as coronary arteries calcium scoring, osteoporosis measurement in L1, and emphysema diagnosis and quantification. And then you are really in a situation where you have a significant impact in preventive medicine regarding heavy smokers, because you are not just addressing the detection of small lung cancers, but you also address their comorbidities and really can have an impact on public health. More than 16,000 breast mammograms were read with Transpower, offering again a systematic double reading, reducing false negative and positive results, and helping to standardize quality among the readers and perpetuating our expertise in breast imaging. We decided to keep the pace, not just introduce the applications as a one shot and then consider that the game is over. And so we set up a continuing education platform in AI with currently the second season playing, and all the courses are available as replays. And this comes into a vaster project of a 3R academy we are setting up in the near future. Now, what are the lessons learned from this journey and the key success factors? Well, in terms of governance and leadership, you must create momentum and really pace the kind of project you want to introduce in a multi-center setting if you want to succeed. So the pacing is very important. Team empowerment can be achieved by including medical and technical teams in the project design, and also to collect the feedback if something goes wrong, and also sometimes the positive feedbacks. Communication, of course, is key and ensures objectives and stakes are well understood by all. And finally, a reliable partnership, and I insist on the word reliable, is really important to avoid unnecessary problems and gray hair to the IT team, as one of the bottlenecks is access and a connection between AI applications and our RISPAC system. And if you have a partner that consists of a single point of contact with a gateway, that really facilitates the introduction of AI in your network. Now, looking at tomorrow, there is still a lot to be done. And our AI team intends to address quality assurance by documenting and measuring the impact of AI in a multi-center environment, R&D by creating and still improving existing AI apps, because once they're on the market, it's usually the first or the second version, and there is still a space for improvement for these applications. And as a radiologist, we have a role to play in those improvements. Also, leadership as a center of excellence for augmented radiology with AI, and beyond radiology, exploring value across other fields such as workflow issues, pharmacy, etc. So I really insist on the utmost importance of quality assurance. We set up our own matrix, enabling us to determine our KPIs according to different parameters, such as value activity, application domain, which stakeholders are involved, the value category, the imaging value chain metrics, the benefiting parties, and the business benefit, of course. Now, some results shall be presented this year at the ECR meeting, and hopefully at the RSNA meeting later on. We also believe that interacting with AI application is key. Here is an example of an interactive knee MRI result. If the radiologist disagrees with the result, he can change it, and he generates an information that is focused on the needed improvements of young algorithms. So if you, as a radiologist, you have the ground truth. If you disagree with the AI diagnosis and you say, well, this external meniscus has no lesion, you can turn the red meniscus into a green meniscus, and this is going to generate an information that goes back to the producer of this algorithm, telling them, well, there is a lack of reliability on external meniscus. And later on, you can trace these examinations. They have to be anonymized, of course, and your patients have to be aware of this, of course. All our patients sign consent for that, for research consents. And then you can help very quickly to improve the results and the accuracy of these algorithms with this interaction. The next steps shall be represented by bridging AI results and structured reporting towards a one-step reporting where you could directly go from the images to a validation phase with reliable AI apps. And as a radiologist, you would already open your examination in the validation phase, and the AI diagnosis would be imported directly in your structured report. And if you agree, you just validate the report, and this would allow you to save a lot of time for interpretation of basic tasks such as bone age assessment, or is there no fracture. And collecting more real-life evidence is also very important to measure the AI impact in our clinical routine and measure it with metrics, not just feelings. And then enriching future use cases by playing a role in the augmented radiology field is also something that we are looking at now. Now, I would like to finish this presentation with this well-known question, is AI going to replace the radiologist? Well, my answer is, well, I would say, well, of course, yes, in some aspects it will. But to me, AI, first of all, is going to improve our diagnostic capabilities. And it also represents a unique opportunity to relieve our burden of excessive daily workload. We should be aware that AI will transform radiology. It will improve quality and safety. It will influence workflow and productivity. And in some aspects, it will usefully replace the radiologist, yes. And so with this, I would like to thank you for your kind attention.
All right, thank you very much, Hugues, for this excellent presentation. And in the meantime, I can see that Antoine Jomier also joined the panel. Antoine, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Eric. Hello.
Hello, Antoine. Welcome to the panel. So maybe you would like to say something? Well,
just a few words to first to thank Hugues for his presentation, but also thank him for the trust, the collaboration, and the leadership put in the collaboration since we started together back in 2018. And this was just the start of the company. And it's been a journey together, and having him sharing this journey with on your platform with the Udemy Society is a huge opportunity for INCEPTO. So I really like to thank Hugues a lot for doing that. I'd like to thank you for your invitation, the Udemy organization. And it's an important milestone for us because it's over the last 4 years, we've been building the team of 50 people all across the spectrum of artificial intelligence applied to medical imaging, from data science to service, installation, commercial people, application people. We've been doing that in France and in Switzerland very close to in Switzerland, very close to Hugues' team. And now we are at a stage where we've learned a lot, and our platform is ready, and we can go to new countries. And this is one of the opportunities that we wanted to announce you, that we will open 4 new countries in Germany, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. The launch will be done at the European Congress of Radiology. And we are very happy as a teaser to share that with the expert society of imaging and informatics. And we really want to help beyond the French patient, the European patient.
Okay, thank you very much, Antoine. And I think now we can leave the stage to the audience because they have some questions, and we do have some panelists, as you know. They also have some questions. So I will leave now the word to Pinar and to Gennaro.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Hugues, for the great presentation and overview, and Antoine also for your kind words and joining us during the panel discussion. We have a question from the audience. How did you shortlist AI vendor before deployment?
Also, this is for me, I guess. Okay, so it was quite easy for us because as we started the co-creation of an AI app with INCEPTO right from the beginning, and once we were able to come out with a product which was chaos, we start thinking of getting other apps because we start believing that it would have an impact on our clinical routine. And so, as I said, when we saw the number of applications that came out in that short time, and we were really confused of how being able to choose the right one to answer our clinical questions and our needs in terms of workflow, the diagnostic accuracy, etc. So as INCEPTO came out with this gateway, well, I would say with great confidence went to them instead of taking a risk to going to another vendor, not knowing what they would be able to deliver, as we only had good experiences with INCEPTO until then. So yeah, we were partners already and decided to remain partners also through application testing.
Hugues, in addition to that, I'm quite sure that you know Patrick Umumi quite well from Lausanne. It's not far away from you. Mm-hmm. And so he's also one of the authors, together with even some people from USOMI, for one of the authors of the Eclair paper, which is providing users guidelines when looking for the right applications to implement. Mm-hmm. So have you been using these guidelines, or what do you think about it? Is it in any way meaningful for you?
Are these the Eclair guidelines?
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we chose already before the Eclair guidelines came out. So as being a little bit pioneering, we had to be a little bit pioneering in every aspect of AI, but it's true that these guidelines are very interesting, very well written, and of course, I would say that if I had to do it again today, I would go through guidelines and really have this quality assurance, which many people have to do now to be sure that these applications respond to our needs and really have a clinical impact today. So yeah, these guidelines are fantastic, and I would recommend to use them today. Yeah.
Yes, one comment I already heard about these guidelines is that, first of all, well, that's maybe a detail that might be a little bit too extensive, but on the other hand, so maybe they're not always very practical, but on the other hand, it's also a question apparently among many people what kind of answers the vendors or those offering the solution should provide. Apparently, this is not clear either. But okay, this is maybe some feedback from authors readers that might create an incentive to, let's say, make a more usable format of these guidelines. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It's always, well, at least they have the merit to exist, you know. You can use some of them. You don't have to use all of them, because it might be heavy to before you want to decide. And we have to also recognize that you know, the AI world, it's kind of new in our community. And so we are full into change management here, and we change of culture. And so, of course, it will take a couple of years before all this is going to be smooth, easy. And
Yes.
so I would say the next author will always be right, and the previous author will always be wrong. But I think this paper was a great paper when it was published.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's a building, yeah, indeed. But I do want to ask something regarding to this topic. So to Antoine, so what would be the role of the industrial partner in the process?
You mean for the selection of the application, or throughout the process?
Throughout the process. So indeed, you had already been collaborating together. So that was, I think, to continue with this main road would be a logical step.
I think one of our role is to, when we build the project together with the teams, is to explain first what are our selection criteria for the application we onboard on the platform. And we have technical criteria. So for example, we only select a deep learning application, and we only select application which don't bring any new user interface. We want applications which are going to bring results that we can easily integrate into your existing environments. So we have a technical criteria, we have clinical and product performance criteria, regulatory criteria, and also the company criteria. So is the company, do they have a management in place? Does the team has a critical size? Do they have enough funding for the next 18 to 24 months? So it's kind of the guidelines and the criteria that Dr. Omumi also published, not all of them, but some of them, we apply them internally, leveraging our multidisciplinary expertise. We involve our data science team, our product teams, our commercial team into the selection, and then we come up with the selection. And then when we build a project with a network like 3R, we explain why we've been selecting this solution, what we think is the benefits, is there a need? And then what was very well explained by and presented by Hugues, it's a joint collaboration. It's a change management program. There is a lot about communication and adoption, and this we prepare a lot upfront.
Okay, that's very clear. Do you also, like, retrospectively, because you, as you say, you already have, I think, a large part of the criteria. Do you also retrospectively, like, I mean, evaluate them again?
Yes, we benchmark with potential other solution on a permanent basis. We worked with a preferred partner, so it's not exclusive, but we try to have one company for one use case, because we need to be very closely integrated to them. We need to understand the clinical value, and we are providing them a lot of feedback. And to do that, we need a lot of trust and good connection with them. But now for some use case, we have two applications, because in terms of performance criteria and in terms of what the market is asking, these two match the technical and performance criteria, and we make them available through the platform. So that's how we work. And we've also had a situation where we started initially with a company, and the company has changed its commercial strategy. Mm-hmm. So we've replaced it by a new one. So I think one of our role is also to maintain over time the service.
Yes, and that's what I meant indeed with re-evaluating, also with the guidelines, but I think also the visions of both parties, right? Yeah. So there's a question from the audience: is patient informed about use of AI in process?
No, that's a very important question indeed. So we, you have to be compliant with this. So in Europe, you have the LGPD. In Switzerland, the law is much more restrictive. And so every patient that enters our group signs an informed consent about whatever we do for research purposes, and also very specifically for AI interpretation of their results. And we go that far that we explain where the servers are, because the servers, interpretation servers, are in the EU, so they might not be under the same protective laws as Switzerland, and that's why we also had to mention that the servers were in Ireland, and yeah, that's how it works today. You have to be very cautious about that, because you shouldn't use patient data, because they are patient data and not yours, to even do AI interpretation.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So I would like to ask another thing about research and development. What are the big R&D topics you are or will be addressing in the R&D, in your R&D department?
Now, currently we are starting a program intending to use patient data and referring prescription. So if a patient comes for an abdomen CT, we want to use the patient data, like, is it the first CT, is the follow-up, is the man, a woman, what is age, is BMI, allergy to certain contrast media or medication, etc. Everything that is possible to find and put into an algorithm. And that is going to generate the best protocol for the CT, for this specific patient at this specific time in this specific clinical indication. This is really important for us because it has a big impact on workflow. As a radiologist, we get interrupted, I don't know how many times, 20 times a day, by people who ask us the same questions, week after week, months after months, year after year. And all these concentration disruptions, they make us tired at the end of the day. And so one really important topic for us is give the radiologist the opportunity to concentrate on his work and bypass the unnecessary work. And so that's one very, very important aspect. Another aspect, for example, for our R&D team is breast cancer. We really want to be able to develop specific niches in terms of imaging with genetic typage and selecting very specific patients who are not necessarily invited to the screening program because they are too young, but they might have a very high probability of developing breast cancer in their lives. And so if we could address them with an algorithmic reading of an automatic breast ultrasound or an algorithmic reading of a breast MRI saying there is or there is no cancer, very on-off, you could depict cancers very early with no harm for these patients, with no radiation. And this would really have an impact on public health, out of the scope of political economic decisions at the level of a country. So I would say, yeah, these are two important aspects for us, but there are many more on which we work, and we have a yearly program with 4 or 5 subjects every year, and then we move on to the next program.
Thank you for your answer. I will go on with another question. Also, I connected with a question we received at the question and answer box about the impact is expected from AI to the 3R ecosystem. Also, if this use of AI, if it's justified economically. and all the integration of the AI in all the your ecosystem, like with talking about patient, clinician, radiologist, and also investors.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say the first filter is IT, because you come up as a radiologist, you say, okay, I want this app, you know, and that's going to make my life easier. And the IT manager looks at you, it says, well, that's not going to make my life easier, I'm for sure. So if you have a provider which comes with a gateway, and so you can connect several applications.
Sorry, Hugues, please don't underestimate the power of radiologists. I am personally a big issue for IT. So
okay. So that was the first filter. The second filter is once you are in place, once you have introduced your applications, the second filter will be radiologists. You know, if they lose 1 second of their time for something that is not going to improve their daily business, you know, then okay, so you must be very convincing. Now, what we did is that we integrated the AI results in the images, you know, that the radiologists anyway look at. And if you consider that you have a second reader, which, well, it's not too expensive, but you have a second reader on hand, which can reassure you when you have a doubt, which can help you when you have a huge pile of bones to look at, and you know, you're a bit tired, you want to go home, etc. And then you have this application, which in the end helps you. When you have a MS, you know, patient comes back and you have an explosion of white matter lesions, you're very happy to have an app that tells you, well, these are the lesions that have improved, and these are the lesions that have not. Breast cancer as well, you know, the screening programs, the radiologists have to look at so many images on a day. I'm not sure they are 100% concentrated on every image for every patient. And so if you have this AI help on a daily basis, I think it's a huge benefit for the radiologist. Now, it has a cost, that's okay. And no politician will pay for that, okay? No politician will ever do that. We just have to consider that it's a cost for us radiologists, but nobody puts a gun on your head, you know, you don't have to do it. You don't have to take it. If you don't want it, don't use it. But I can tell you that in a daily workflow, it really helps you a lot.
Thank you. There is a suggestion to stop sharing the screen so that the discussion is more live, and I think we're all on the big screen. So please, okay. If you could stop sharing. Thank you very much. Sorry. Yes.
That's cool. That's a great suggestion. Sorry for that.
Thank you for the person in the audience asking for this. Then we continue with 2 other questions from Francesco Macri, who says, thank you very much for sharing your experience and congratulations with this nice presentation, and that he's a strong believer that AI will positively revolutionize radiology and medicine in general, which I think within the panel, we all agree. So the first question is, frequently AI is often fought by senior or skeptical radiologists. How did you have the software run in so little time? That was also one of my questions, because you present that it's one application in a month. And another question you partly answered with a nice comment with Gennaro about the IT. I mean, it's generally even an update with, I mean, the software, right? That takes, at least in the medical center in Erasmus in Rotterdam, where I work, it takes a few sessions to update the computers and have the tryout and have it work and have radiologists with smiling faces using it. So having said that, did you prepare your radiology team up front to better accept the idea once implemented on the field? That's the first question.
Okay, well, before being the CEO, I was the medical director of Group 3R, and I think I must be very painful on a daily basis. You know, people gave up, and because we are an innovative group, and we never stop coming up with new things. And here, I really think that, yeah, the preparation phase is so important. You have to test it by yourself. You have to be convinced, etc. And then the way we did it, we really spend a lot of time preparing the entire group for this. And the images of the AI interpretation is available. It's you don't have to use it. If you don't want to look at it, you just don't look at it. That's okay. But it's available. It's there. And I must say that even skeptical radiologists in the beginning, finally go and look at the results, because even for them, it's a challenge, because they get challenged by the AI. It happens that you say, okay, there's nothing, and then you just have a small look at the AI and the AI finds something. Or you have this wow effect, okay, I found a lesion. And then you are very disappointed because the AI application found another one. But you were satisfied with the first one. So there are many aspects in which you can positively look at things. And well, for me, it's always a half full glass instead of a half empty glass. So
in addition to that, you, of course, this now Pinar asked you, or Francesco asked you about how did you prepare the radiologists, and so you explained that you need a lot of preparation. That's clear. But on the other hand, I think, and this is a question to Antoine, isn't this considered by many vendors as a hurdle, that in every place where they have to implement a new solution, that the hospital has to go through all these preparations and all these testing, and maybe a retrospective phase, and then a pilot where they go prospectively, and it always takes time, but you have to go through it all over again in every location. Isn't that a burden for the vendors?
I think one of the slides of Hugues was the human adventure. And I think the key to this project is the human relationship. So how you explain why to the IT, the CIO, and to the IT department, why these projects are super important. And to get a multidisciplinary team. I think the beauty of what we try to bring at INCEPTO is that we bring always the same people for different projects. But the relationship, the trust relationship between Hugues' team, between his CIO, between his technician has been established up front. So then we know how to work together. And so it's all application, if they were different vendors, but we've been able to apply the same process with the same people. The person that did the training, it's an application specialist. She came, and she was not every week, but every other week, she was visiting all the centers, and she was training on the VHS, but she was collecting feedback on BoneView, which we had done 2 months earlier. So I think that's the beauty of the platform approach, is not only the IT side, but it's also the project management and the adoption side, because you learn by doing, and then you build up processes and a culture, a common culture. And that's what we try to bring to all the vendors. A lot of the startups that are developing AI applications, they don't want to do that, or they are not used to do that, because it's a pain in the ass. But that's our role in the ecosystem.
Of course, it's really clear, Antoine. So I mean, if you can do this on a long term with the same partner like 3R, of course, then you start collaborating, and there's a climate of trust, etc. But of course, some AI vendors have to do this in have to start up a similar project in many different hospitals, which are not part of one group. So this is for them, of course, always taking a lot of time and might be cumbersome. But okay, I agree on your perspective that you should establish some kind of relation, a collaboration, and this is also answering the question of Pinar, I think. What is the role of the industry that's obtaining the feedback from the users and let's say trying to understand the atmosphere and the necessities, etc.
Yeah.
And I think now we have about 10 applications, but honestly, in the next 2 to 3 years or 3 to 5 years, we expect to have 20 interesting and meaningful applications. And our message to the startup community is, well, we've developed that now, that expertise, and the objective is to mutualize. So the message is come on the platform. Also, one of the reasons why we are going to other countries is that when I was talking to the CEO of Edens or ScreenPoint, they were telling me, well, let us know if you go to other countries, because we don't have the same type of distribution elsewhere. And the expertise you've built is very interesting for us. So if you go in Spain, let us know and we will work together.
So, I would like to link to this speech about the talking about INCEPTO and what's next, your roadmap for the future. You talked about 20 applications. Maybe can you give us some details, if the detail is possible to describe for now?
Sure. Well, you got a view of our roadmap, because it's, well, a lot of the innovative topics we share very openly and transparently, and we work together with the R&D team of 3R. So we work a lot on the platform itself. We work a lot on the interaction between the AI result and the validation from the radiologist and the structured report. So improve quality and save time. These are the two things we want to, the ultimate benefit we want to bring in radiology. Dashboarding and analytics. There are a lot of data that we are consolidating, which are meaningful and which can be very valuable. So we are investing a lot of effort in this direction. And then it's a lot of activity in connecting and meeting other startups to increase the portfolio with meaningful application in cardiovascular, musculoskeletics, emergency radiology, neurology, and oncology, of course. So really, we try to, our objective is to cover 80% of the radiologist needs with 25 applications by 2025.
Antoine, this is something interesting, and maybe also something to answer by Hugues. And a topic that we didn't discuss yet so far, maybe only partly, is the monitoring of the applications. Once they have been installed, you have to evaluate, and this is also part of your program, as you explained in your presentation. And you also have people collaborating in this. For example, Federica Zanca, who is also a USOMI member, of course. So my question to you is, because I think this is quite a difficult topic. What methods would you like to use, or how do you think about being able to monitor the outcomes of the AI solution? So what is needed to create trust, and what is needed to, let's say, obtain positive results? Is it the intention of monitoring? Is it only to evaluate the quality and the outcome on the patients, or is it also to calculate the return on investment on the workflow, etc.? So what is the monitoring, and how will you use it, and how will the monitoring be done?
Mm-hmm. So every app has its intended use. So I would say that that's the starting point. We monitor our applications. Once installed, we still monitor. We monitor the results. We compare applications, monitoring results for comparison. For example, we compared 2 applications that assess bone age. They have different intended use, and while comparing the results of those 2, they are very good in their intended use, both of them. But one of the applications has an intended use of replacing the radiologist. Okay, and it does. It does. Now we proved it. How did we prove? We compared the results with. We asked an endocrinologist, to look at the results of the radiologist, augmented or not by AI. And when he disagreed, we went back to the results, and the application was less wrong than the radiologist in that respect. So there are a number of ways of monitoring applications. If you have a pile of 100 bone X-rays, you can do a group of, or you just report your X-rays, then you see the time it takes. And then you just monitor how much it takes with AI. And then so you monitor the time, and you can see that you gain more than 50% of your time if you have an AI app that helps you to get down a pile of 100 cases of bone X-rays. Now, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you first of all, I think you have to look at the intended use, and then really see what are your needs and why did you choose this application, and does it fill the gap? Does it fill the gap? If it fills the gap, then you have to find the metrics that shows that it fills the gaps.
I do have a question regarding this also within my clinics, and this is also the second part of a question, actually two other questions. So indeed, so the application has an intended use, and as you say, you can go through a big pile of work, but is it also that, so if you have the application that it pops up automatically, or you can choose like if to see what the application says about a certain question, or I mean, for example, a fracture, because I know over here also in a trauma setting or in an acute setting, it takes some time to for the images to go to cloud. So that was another question. Is it going to a separate cloud and then giving feedback to the system within the hospital, that you see, okay, this person has a fracture or not, and that you evaluate as a radiologist yourself, okay, I agree with this, or this is nothing?
Very easy answer for big volume examinations. All our examinations go through AI if we have the app. And so once you get to the examination for the reporting, the AI result is available. Okay, so that it doesn't take that long, it's actually. Automatic, it's at the speed of light, it goes very fast.
Oh, that's very nice, because within our center, we have to wait until it goes to the cloud, and then if we get the feedback back.
This time that the patient has to put his clothes on, he has to leave the department, or the technician has to come to you and ask you to have a look at an image, or I mean, I'm not sure that every radiologist does the reports before even the patient is out of the waiting room, no? So
I mean, it's also obviously for as you said nicely, to the workflow of the radiologist, right? To improve this. And I mean, especially within an acute setting or where the demand is high, and that's usually when you're on call, right? You want to pick or triage those acute things that you want to look at first. So that's why I ask about the whole time.
That's another part of the game, is that these applications are able to do a triage as well, and put on top the examinations with a doubt, and then come the examinations with fractures, for example, if it's bone, and then the normal examinations which are considered a normal go with the green light on the bottom of the list. Now, for low volume examinations like MS, like white matter lesions, assessment, there we do it when the radiologist wants to have the result of the AI, he activates it manually. And then he says, okay, this is an easy case, there was nothing before, there's still nothing today, so okay, we don't need it. But when they see that it might be a change, then they activate it, they do the activation manually.
Okay, great. Thank
you. So unfortunately, I have to do as the bad teacher that because the time is over. We are on an extra time, so I will give another time the microphone to Eric Empenar for the conclusion of this wonderful webinar.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you, Hugues and Antoine, for being here. Thank you very much for the presentation and this great discussion at the end. And thank you, INCEPTO, again for sponsoring this webinar. I also want to quickly remind all of you about our ISOMI annual meeting again. It's October the 14th and 15th in Valencia. So the call for abstracts is also open. Please send your abstracts. We look forward to receiving them and seeing all of you in Valencia. And thank you all again for joining this great webinar and being so interactive with the great questions. And have a great week, everyone.
Yes, I also would like to add something. Thank you very much, all of you, also the panelists. And yes, also thank you for this interesting live discussion. There's a lot of things to talk about, so we could have continued, I'm sure. But on the other hand, I would also like to inform all of you that the recording of this webinar will be available on our platform. So please do not hesitate to visit the website and to look at this webinar and maybe some others as well. And of course, this might be an incentive for you to become a member of our society as well. I wish you all a good evening and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.